It was Thanksgiving, the one day a year I used to believe brought families back together. I'd been up since sunrise, preparing the stuffing from scratch, making cranberry sauce the way his father liked it before he passed, and setting the table with our best china, the same set I'd bought from my first paycheck as a waitress. My hands trembled from arthritis now, but I still wanted to make everything perfect. For him. For Daniel. My only son. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. But he arrived an hour late, not with a smile or flowers, but with a new girlfriend clinging to his arm like static. She didn't say hello. She didn't even take her sunglasses off. And Daniel? He barely hugged me. No, he walked right past the photos of him on the hallway wall. Toddler photos, his graduation, the wedding I helped pay for, as if they were strangers' memories. Dinner was barely warm when he sat down and barked, "You didn't make the stuffing gluten-free?" I apologized. He didn't acknowledge it, just sighed loudly and poked at the food like it offended him. His girlfriend scrolled through her phone. Still, I kept trying. I told stories. I asked about his job. I offered him a slice of pecan pie, his favorite. But with each word, he grew colder, more distant. Then, as I asked if everything was okay financially, genuinely out of concern, he scoffed, loudly, in front of everyone. "That's rich," he said, setting his fork down with a clink. "The woman who lives in my basement rent-free wants to talk about my finances?" I felt my heart skip. He leaned back in his chair and continued, "You know what you are, Mom. You're a leech. You cling. You drain. You make me feel guilty every time I walk into the house. I don't owe you a thing just because you gave birth to me." Silence filled the room. Even his girlfriend looked startled for a second before smirking and sipping her wine. My hand trembled on the pie dish. I slowly set it down. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of them. I simply excused myself, walked upstairs to my little corner room in the basement, the one he called free lodging, and closed the door. That night, as they laughed upstairs over some movie, I opened the drawer that held every document Daniel had no idea I still kept. The deed to the house, the savings account, the unsigned check, the account he thought was gone. He didn't know that after his divorce, I had quietly kept in touch with his ex-wife, Emily. She had always treated me like a mother. Even when she and Daniel split, she still sent me cards on my birthday and asked if I needed groceries. She never asked for help, never played the victim. But I knew she was struggling, raising my granddaughter alone, working night shifts just to keep their apartment warm. I looked at the envelope that held the check Daniel assumed I'd use to pay his mortgage, the one I told him I had just in case. I smiled. And I knew exactly what I'd do next. The next morning, the house felt colder than the snowstorm outside. I made myself a cup of tea, though my hands were still shaking. Not from the weather, but from what Daniel had said. A leech. After all I had done. After the years I stayed up late sewing his Halloween costumes. After selling my jewelry to pay for his college. After moving into the basement when his marriage ended so he could keep the house without going bankrupt. He didn't just insult me. He erased me. Daniel was upstairs when I left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. I took my old purse, my coat with the broken zipper, and walked out into the snow to catch the 8:45 bus. One transfer and 45 minutes later, I was standing outside a worn-down brick apartment building. Emily's place. She opened the door with a look of surprise that turned into warmth in seconds. "Are you okay?" she asked, ushering me in. Her daughter, my granddaughter, was drawing quietly in the living room with crayons, wearing the same pink sweater I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago. The same one Daniel said was outdated. Emily gave me tea and I told her everything. Not in a bitter tone, not with drama, just facts. The words, "he called me a leech," barely left my mouth before she covered hers with a trembling hand. "Why would he say that?" she whispered. "You gave him everything." "I know," I replied softly. "But now it's time I give something to someone who never asked, never expected, and always respected." From my coat pocket, I pulled out the envelope. Inside, it was the certified check, enough to pay off the remainder of his mortgage, enough to change someone's life, enough to rewrite the ending. Emily blinked at the numbers. I can't accept this. You can, I said, because it was meant for someone who'd make a home out of it, not a throne. Her eyes filled with tears. But what about you? I'll be fine, I said, smiling for the first time in days. You gave me something he never did. Kindness. By that afternoon, I had called a lawyer I trusted from years ago. We drafted a revised will. I didn't need much time, just a few paragraphs to undo a lifetime of blind loyalty. The house that Daniel lived in? Still under my name. The savings account? Every cent now earmarked for Emily and her daughter. Daniel had built his life on the assumption that I would always be his safety net. He never once thought I'd cut the cords. That evening, I returned to his house with the lawyer. Daniel was confused when we knocked on the door. He opened it with a smug look, still chewing something from dinner. What now? He said, not even bothering to greet me. The lawyer stepped forward. We're here to finalize the ownership transfer, Mr. Allen. He frowned. Transfer? I looked him in the eyes and said, I'm leaving. And so is everything you thought was yours. He laughed. You're bluffing. The lawyer handed him the envelope. Daniel flipped through it, eyes widening with each page. The notarized documents, the property clause, the inheritance update. You gave it all to her? He whispered. She never hit me with words, I said. You did? He looked stunned, but I didn't wait for a response. I turned around and walked away from the house I helped him keep. The house where he once called me Mom with love, now just a cage with heat. I didn't even turn around when he shouted my name. A week later, I was sipping tea on Emily's tiny balcony, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, watching her daughter draw chalk flowers on the pavement. The world had shrunk to this, a little corner of peace, honesty, and quiet joy. And I had never felt richer. Daniel, on the other hand, had called me 16 times. I hadn't answered once. The 17th time, he left a voicemail. His voice was shaky, not angry, not yelling like I expected, but lost. Mom! I didn't mean what I said. I was just stressed. Please call me back. I need to talk to you. I didn't think you'd actually... He cut off before finishing. That was the first time I'd heard him sound like a child in years, but children grow up, and sometimes so do mothers, into women who finally see the difference between love and being used. A few days later, I got a call from the real estate agent handling the mortgage transfer for Emily's place. We closed, she said. She owns it now, free and clear. I cried, not from sadness, from freedom. But poetic justice has its own timing. That weekend, Daniel's bank declined his refinance request. Turns out, he was depending on the inheritance money. Money I no longer owed him. Emily told me later that he came to her door, begging her to talk to me. She didn't open the door. He stood on her porch for 10 minutes, shivering, while his daughter peeked through the window. I don't want him to scare Grandma again, she whispered. Emily held her hand and simply said, He won't. The silence between Daniel and me grew louder in the following weeks. No birthday card, no apology letter, just silence. And in that silence, I rebuilt myself. I moved into a small garden flat Emily helped me find. It had creaky floorboards, peeling wallpaper, and a tiny kitchen that smelled like sunlight and rosemary. I started volunteering at the local library, where a boy once called me the nice grandma who helped him find dinosaur books. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, but I knew that handwriting. Daniel's. I stood for a long time before opening it. It read, I don't know how to undo what I did. I guess I always thought you'd be there no matter what. You always were. I made a mistake thinking love came with no limit, but I crossed it. I don't blame you for leaving. I just miss you. And I'm sorry. No money was asked, no plea for help, just regret. I folded the letter and tucked it into a drawer. Maybe one day I'd reply, maybe not. But for now, I had a new family photo in a simple wooden frame. Me, Emily, and my granddaughter, 3 generations of women who understood that love isn't proven by blood, but by choice. And as for Daniel, I didn't leave him homeless. He still had the house. He just didn't have me, or the roof of entitlement he used to live under. I donated the mortgage money, but what I really gave away was the weight of being taken for granted, and I never, ever took it back.